When I returned from my mother-in-law's, my wife Janet greeted me with a question. "You saw the boys off for a long time," and she looked at me suspiciously. "Did you have another drink with them?" "No, no. The bus left a long time ago." I waved my hand and disappeared into the bathroom. The next day my wife and I started arranging the furniture, pulling out and putting things away. My mother-in-law Dorothy was still on my mind. As I thought back to the circumstances of our incident yesterday, I felt a surge of energy and vigor each time. It still seemed to me that none of this had happened to me. Enough trash and empty boxes had accumulated in the hallway. I volunteered to take them to the dump. After stuffing everything into 2 large bags, I went downstairs, found trash cans around the corner of the house, dumped it all out, and was up the stairs in a couple minutes. At the door to my mother-in-law's house, my feet stopped on their own. Without thinking, I pressed the bell button. Quick footsteps were heard behind the door and it opened. Dorothy's face showed genuine amazement at first, but then it changed to joy. She literally pulled me into the hallway, taking my hand and dragging me along with her. "Come this way quickly," she whispered, pushing me towards the door to the room. "Wait, I'll see what the workers are doing in there." I froze in anticipation, listening to what was being done outside. I didn't have time to think, because Dorothy suddenly slipped into the room and closed the door, informing me that the workers were busy. We had some time, and our affair was continuing. The whole time we didn't utter a word. Half an hour later, Dorothy walked me out with a sullen smile on her lips. She gave me a hug. "You son-in-law, come by more often. Don't be shy," she said. I asked in bewilderment, "What about father-in-law Tom? After all, a business trip doesn't last forever." I tried to reconsider the situation for the future. "Listen, son-in-law, you for this do not worry. He has a mistress, and he thinks that I do not know. So he lies to me that he goes away on a business trip, but he lives with her." "Poor thing," I said, stroking her head. "Not so poor now," she smiled, unlocking the door to her room and peering out into the hallway so the staff wouldn't see too much. A minute later, I was in my room. "Where have you been for so long?" I heard my wife Janet's voice barely crossing the threshold of the apartment. "There is a lot of garbage here. You can take it out." "Enough for today. I'm tired." I brushed her off, but I didn't lie. After all, I was tired, and it looked like it was only going to get harder from here on out. But I knew one thing for sure. I was very lucky to have a mother-in-law. Now the important thing was to not get exhausted and to work on 2 fronts. Over the next few months, I got into an exciting routine, dividing my time between my wife Janet and my mother-in-law. I enjoyed my not-so-good double life, playing the role of the beautiful husband while having a passionate affair a stone's throw away from my wife when she wasn't home. My mother-in-law and I had to be very careful to hide my adventures. We devised a system whereby I would leave a tiny chalk mark on the fence post outside her room if it was clean. Dorothy would then send me a message, like "pick up milk today," which meant "come on up." We lived for those sweet moments. The risk of being caught kept our physical chemistry explosive. Sometimes Dorothy would sneak into my bedroom after Janet left for work and pounce on me under the blanket that still held my wife's scent. On other occasions between business trips, I would rush home during my lunch break to do a quick adult man's work, leaning over the kitchen table with the same unsated cat. By some miracle, Janet remained in the dark as the months passed. Dorothy's and I fell deeper and deeper in love behind her back. We both knew it was wrong on so many levels, me cheating on my wife with her own mother, but neither of us could resist. The heart wants what it wants. On the anniversary of my mother-in-law and I's first intimacy in that stuffy room, I surprised her with champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries. In the heat of passion, we got sloppy, knocking over a bottle of perfume on the dresser. The perfume spilled all over the house, and its scent overpowered the small room. Janet came home early from work to change for her date. As she walked past her mom's room, the scent of perfume wafting through the air made her stop wearily. My heart stopped when Janet suddenly burst through the unlocked door and found her mother-in-law lying on the unmade bed. A stunned silence filled the room before Janet let out a guttural cry of anger. The expression of pain and betrayal on her face said it all. Dorothy's and I rushed to cover ourselves with sheets, and Janet stepped back in horror. "How could you?" exclaimed Janet, whereupon she turned and fled the scene of our attack. I hurried down the stairs, feeling panic and guilt. My mother-in-law sat on the bed and shocked, and we both realized that our mistakes had finally manifested themselves in the worst possible way. We hugged each other, sobbing two lovers who had lost themselves in an unstable fantasy world. I spent hours begging Janet through the locked bedroom door, willing to do anything for a second chance. But some betrayals run too deep. Janet showed up the next morning with sunken eyes and a determination to go to the divorce lawyers. She wanted me out of the house immediately. Her mom and I tearfully helped each other pack. We both lost everything that day: my marriage, my relationship with her only daughter, our homes, each other. Sometimes when we give in to temptation, we take the path of destruction. Janet could barely look at me as I said goodbye to her. The life in her eyes did. I left a home that once held so much hope for the future. Dorothy was waiting for me by her car, mascara running down her cheeks. We had nowhere to go. I silently sat in the driver's seat and she climbed into the passenger's seat. I turned on the ignition and the radio to a sad love song, and the hum of the engine echoed the shaking of my shattered world collapsing around me.